We are live. It's Lilia from Heal Scotland here, and I've got Yoga Ganesh. What's your name's Braxton? What's your surname?
So my surname is kind of Ganesh, just for the purposes of yoga and my musical career, which you know about. I just call myself Braxton Ganesh, so that's where the Yoga Ganesh came from.
Right, I love it. I absolutely love it. And I had the absolute pleasure of meeting you at Trues Fest.
Yeah.
That's the first time we met down with the
Wow.
Soulfest Festival. And
Mhm.
I just loved your yoga. And I was just so delighted when you got in touch about this. I'm really, really honoured and delighted to have you there. So thank you for that.
Honestly, it works both ways, because when I've seen all your stuff, I don't think I've really seen many people who work as hard as you do with the type of kind of connections that you're making in such a regular basis. Even in the last 2 weeks, I was like, where is she now? You were, you were just all over the place. You were to this person, that I'm up in Dundee, I'm in Aberdeen. I was like, wow. So your commitment to the cause is quite remarkable. So it works both ways, Lily, how it
Yeah,
works.
as my daughter said, you're relentless. And I thought, now, is that a criticism or a compliment? But yeah, I think is the language we talk. This is not something I would have chosen to do. Really, if you think about it, why would you think let's try and get everybody healthier, get everybody on board? Because it's. But now I realise that this is what I'm here to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're tapping into your natural skill sets, which is socialising, and bringing all this information out to the masses, because it's taken me decades, and pretty much everybody I know that's a healer has come through their own healing journey.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and it's a bit of this, a bit of that, and then you learn a wee bit more. And now we're just like, let's put this into some nice packages so that people can understand the power they have over their body, their mind, their emotional state, etc.
Yeah.
So tell me, how did you get into this?
Okay, so let's have a wee think. So the backstory is, believe it or not, I was actually an adventure training instructor for the military way back.
Really?
So yeah, I was teaching kayaking and extreme sports and rock climbing and abseiling and stuff for the military when I was in Cyprus. I got posted to Cyprus to do this stuff, and then I got posted to Canada. And so this is my journey, and it started when I was 16, right? So this is like a long process. And then I ended up in Afghanistan, of all places. Yeah,
Wow.
with Scotland's own 4th Royal Tank Regiment and the Blues and Twos. And there was no adventure training. I was actually in the front line. So anyway, so to cut a very long story fairly short, was when I left there, I had PTSD, and I had this, I think, called dysthemic disorder, which set me on my spiritual journey at that point. So I didn't know what PTSD was back then. This is like 20 years ago. And I certainly didn't know what dysthemic disorder was, which was an emotional disorder. So they said, they got all these names for put you in holes to say, you're this, you're that. But I was too young and naive to understand what it all meant. So I left, and I went and I embarked on a spiritual journey through India, Thailand, Bali. I went to Pakistan, a whole host of different places. But when I was in Thailand, I banged into these Buddhist monks, and I chatted to them for ages. They were like chatting to lots of different people in the street, and these kind of like Krishna gatherings. And I was, as I said, I was trying to find myself. I was certainly a bit crazy. I had lost my marbles. I was pretty stressed. I wasn't really together. I wasn't really thinking straight. And I was just involved in trying to just grasp at things at the time. And when I met these monks, they took me under their arm very quickly. After me speaking to them for a couple of hours, they were like, why don't you come with us? And what are you doing? And I said, I'm traveling around for the next couple of years. I'm just going to be going to various places. I want to find myself. I want to find out how I can heal myself in some way. They said, do you want to come with us? And you can do what they called as a kind of a form of ashram. You know the ashram processing. And I asked them, what is that? They said, well, you work in our garden. We'll teach you more about meditation. You're doing meditation already. And then we'll teach you some disciplines, give you some books, texts to read, see how it goes. You can stay for us one day, or you can stay for a month. I stayed for 2.5 months with them, and they taught me all sorts of different things. They taught me about tending to your garden and how nature heals us naturally without anything else. And then they taught me about the processes of quietening the mind and the body and the soul through the processes of not speaking for days on end and not looking at people in the eyes for days on end. And then the processes of gratitude and going through the chaos as well to get to the order, as they used to call it, the yin and the yang, the dark and the light. And that I had to sit with the dark because I was avoiding the dark at all costs. And then I was very embarrassed about the whole process. I didn't know what it all meant, and I was embarrassed that I was a little bit mentally unstable. So I sat with them for 2.5 months, and I done all the different teachings, and it set me on this journey. It set me on a journey of, oh, this is why I went through this. I was meant to learn a new, some sort of program in my mind. I was supposed to change the thinking, the lifestyle that I had. And the reason why I've been bumped off onto this new space through mental illness is because I was supposed to learn something quite profound, and the only way to get there is to go through some pretty dark places. So that took me to them, and then when I was there, I went straight up from that point and started to do meditation, yoga, and somatic training. And then I stayed in India. When I went through to India to do that, I stayed with various groups. Shiva Shakti was one of the groups I hung out with, and a whole host of other different groups. And that was my journey began, really. Yeah.
Fantastic. And now you can bring that back to the people of Scotland, which is so nice. Because similar to you, it wasn't my PTSD came from the economic crash in 2008, where I suddenly realised that no matter what I did, we couldn't survive the recession. And that was a real, lost loads of money, put a huge amount of effort into our business in Glasgow, and then thought, right, that's it, fuck it, I'm going to Malta to party the rest of my life away. And then about an hour, a year or so into my time in Malta, I was like, right, you had to be here, and that was the catalyst that catapulted you there. So, it's same idea but different scenario. And and usually, isn't it, it's pain and suffering that makes you either you find yourself in a different geographical place, or you find yourself searching for ways to feel better. And as you said, feeling emotionally and mentally unstable, it's a shame that there is a bit of shame around it, although I hope that is changing. We're all going to have times of our life where we're emotionally unstable. That's a given. So it's just how we can nurse ourselves through that, and also have these protocols. Now, you do quite a variety of different things. Obviously, when I saw you, and Yoga Ganesh would suggest, yoga is a big part of your life and what you teach. But also you're a musician. But let's talk about that after. Tell me about what all's in offer.
Yeah, I mean, so it was initially, as you said, it was yoga to begin with. I'd done a lot of yoga, and the same as when you start off yoga, you go through the processes. I was doing hatha yoga and flow yoga, and then I moved into Iyengar yoga, and then I've done this thing called I called it, I was playing by the seat of my pants, really. I called it free flowing yoga because I decided that I really didn't like to stick to one type of movement yoga. And I asked people about it, and I continued to say to various people who I looked up to, or some gurus in India, I would say to them, like, because I knew I didn't like Ashtanga. Ashtanga wasn't for me. It was too something disciplined, too regimented. That's what it was. I think it reminded me of the army, the processes of army with Ashtanga. So I kind of moved away from that very quickly. I like to be free. So I started to do this thing called free form yoga. And it was me making a form of movement up, which was kind of collaborating a kind of a variety of different types of yogas and mashing them together in a kind of in a flowing sense, and with lots of breath, because I was really interested in the breath. Because they also, when I was in India, they taught me a lot about breathing, how I could really release a lot of blockages through my chakras just through the breath that I was using. And they constantly said to me, "You're not breathing. Braxton, you're not breathing. You need to breathe. And I was like, okay, okay. And then eventually I got to the stage where I was like, oh, right. They weren't saying I wasn't breathing, because obviously if you don't breathe, then you die. I just wasn't using my chest, everything. I wasn't using my gut, my diaphragmatic energies to breathe properly. And then once I realized that, it kind of changed me. So the type of movement that I'm doing now has moved from taking in a whole different types of yoga, and it's moved now to somatic movement with breath and calisthenics. And it's a kind of like, it's like really simple stuff, but people would really enjoy it. I just did a class, as I was telling you earlier, a second ago, and it's all about jumping and spinning and flowing with your hands with breath. And so the movements that I do, I wouldn't traditionally call it now yoga, although it's still a yoga class. It's some sort of somatic movement with pranayama and transformational breath immersed within it.
Mhm.
And
And
then,
somatic, I think this is so important because it's all I'm hearing is you're letting go using the body.
yeah, yeah, the freedom. Yeah, it's the because we hold a lot. You know yourself. We hold so much tension, and even like a pinky. I often talk about the tongue and the jaw, and how we hold the tongue at the top of the palate, and we hold tension here just by being there. And I always say, probably in a class of an hour and a half, I probably say about 50 times, soften your tongue, soften your tongue,
Yes.
relax your jaw. And now they all, at first I think they thought, this guy's a bit mental, he's doing something different. And now I've got really loyal clients now who really, they're really receptive to how I teach. And
Uh-huh.
so they're very much involved in understanding that you can hold tension in some of these most strange places. And all that tension does is it begins to expand to other areas of your body. And so
Yes.
if you start in an area, soften the tongue and relax your jaw, smooth your brow, then that's the beginnings of something new and fresh where you can just let go and release, you know?
Absolutely. You're going to love the biofield viewer that I've got. I'll have it at the festival. And what it does is it reads the energy field so you see it in colours. And so you can see when the flow of energy is being um, inhibited, and you can also see when it's flowing
Mm,
beautifully. And it's all about light, really, isn't it? Light and
yeah,
information. I keep saying that. Keep it simple,
yes.
and it allows you to then realize, like when I was doing the training, which I'm still kind of doing the training, but I've got a much better clue of it now. Um, the first thing is that you'll see is red, because the red, and the darker reds are slower flow or stress, and you can see it in the jaw. And that can be for various reasons. Amalgam fillings, for example, that's usually about stress and people grinding their teeth. You can see it straight away in the biofield viewer. The
Yeah.
other thing you can see is eye stress. You can very often see cataracts, and also if somebody's on the computer all the time, it shows in your electromagnetic field. So
Mm,
really helpful, the biofeedback to sort of say, this is your body, this is you. You can see it moving, but that's not really what the main reason why I got it. The main reason I got it was to help you see when you do certain things, i.e., movement, breath work, how much more light the body will then have. Because I think, a lot of the protocols and healing is invisible and silent. You're not going to feel it, you're not going to see anything. You have to trust. And we are so crap at that. What was not working? What was not working? Because we're wanting a test to tell us that we're actually healing instead
mm,
of understanding that the body doesn't know how to do anything else. That's what, if you create the right environment, that's absolutely organically and innately what it does.
yes.
We keep interfering with the mind, with the stories, with the labels, with the drugs, with the, crap ultra processed food.
Hmm.
And it's so you'll pretty sure you'll be interested in seeing that. And what'll be nice, I'm just thinking as you're talking there, is that people can come in and have a look at themselves before and after a session or a
Yeah.
breath or a coffee,
Yeah.
you know? And then,
Yes. Yeah, that'd be great. So it works that fast. I suppose your energy would change and
well,
fluctuations would change so quickly. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And so does your HRV. And it's like, so you can see, we use it for biofeedback to say, right, we've done a session, this was you before, this is you after. And it helps people to understand, because all we're doing is it's like a camera, but it's a camera, it's like Kirlian photography,
Hmm.
but we can video it, which is different from before. So you can actually see it in real time.
Yeah.
And the only thing is you have to have the lighting really perfect, because it'll pick up on any shadows, or that you don't want to be thinking you're seeing things that you're not actually seeing.
Yeah, I get that. And you know, it reminds me of actually, Lily, they saying that just now, is that, and a number of, especially in this client base that I was working with this morning, it reminds me a little bit of when I'm trying to get them to be still. Like, so for instance, we do stillness, and of course you do stillness in Shavasana after a class, we know that. But I do a standing stillness where I get them to, so for instance, if I was talking to you, I'd be saying to you, okay, we're standing, we've just done maybe a salutation. Stand. I want you to feel the roots coming out of the soles of your feet. I want you to have your tailbone in neutral position. You get them to think about their physical body,
Yeah,
somatic movement. And then I want you to relax your shoulders. And they're like, okay. And I say this all quite slowly to them. I'll even put hands on as well, with permission, of course. And then I'll point close to the tongue. I was like, relax this tongue, relax this jaw. Imagine there's an invisible thread pulling you by the crown of your head up into the heavens. Imagine this. And then I say that to them, and then when they've got it, the posture that I'm explaining to them, then I say, now I want you to soften into that stillness. Just be still. The amount of people that have a massive problem with being still, standing, because they're not going to bed to lie and go to sleep, because the ego doesn't want us to be still, of course. And simply because of the nervous system hasn't had an opportunity to regulate itself or to surrender to the idea that it's okay to be still and silent for a period of time. People aren't used to it. When they get it, the change in them is remarkable. And it reminds me of what you're saying there about seeing the colours changing and the energies of the body and how it works. I noticed with some of them now that they've came and said to me, this stillness thing that you taught us, that's remarkable. I do it now. I stand in the kitchen and I'll just see if I can just be still. And they say, is it meditation? And I was like, it's a form of meditation, but it's more about you just being mindful, about just being present in the space, still and silent. And they're like, yeah. So yeah, it's kind of like
yeah,
a little bit similar to what you're saying. I feel
absolutely. And it's alchemy, right? You're changing your own chemistry
mm,
by altering your perception and your attention. And it's just so actually so simple, but people think it's so difficult. And it's interesting. I'm with my grandchildren for the weekend because my daughter's away, but the new rule is no devices after 8 p.m. And they're 11 and 9,
uh-huh.
so about to be 12 and 10. And they're like, well, what are we going to do? So
And you're
I
like, aha,
said,
I
well,
bet
let's,
you get lots.
let's play Twister. So you can imagine, I've had my Sunday dinner, now I have to start playing Twister.
Oh,
because,
no, not good.
but
No.
it was really good for me as well, because I was like, wow, because it's that whole stillness. So we'd lost the actual spinner thing, so we're using an online one, and I'm saying it was still, you're talking about maybe a minute as opposed to 30 seconds, but they were
Yeah.
having to hold the position
Hmm.
and then wait until I told them the next move. And obviously, also agility wise, strength wise, I was like, my God, this is a great idea.
Yeah.
No, to
Yeah.
actually, it's teaching, and then also you're teaching them how to lose, because obviously one's always going to lose.
Yes.
So it was really, that's a top tip
That
for,
is great. And it's
yeah,
funny you say that. We were playing Trickster not so long ago. I'm trying to think, where was it we were doing? Oh, the neighbours. We moved to a new house not so long ago. Well, a year ago now, but we had ended up having a game of Twister, and it was funny. Just not the the game per se. It was more what, similar to what you're talking about, is that process of being the agility to stay in one space for a longer period of time, over the top of somebody else, with somebody breathing, and you're like, and I was saying to them, you need to breathe. The breath is your salvation. And they're like, okay, yoga Braxton, okay, no. So yeah, fun.
Yeah, such a simple, and also I think when you see it like that, my granddaughter actually said to me this morning, "Can we start playing it at 7:30 tonight so we've got more time?" I was like, "Absolutely, we can."
Yeah.
So, and it's also good for me too,
Mhm.
because that time of night, is different now. It's getting lighter, but it's almost like we're coming out of that cocoon of darkness in winter, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
what's so exciting about the festival. We're like, putting the program together. I'm like, yes, we're coming back
Yeah.
to life.
Yeah, it's gonna be wonderful. I've seen like little bits of people who you've been speaking to and all the other bits and pieces that seems to be coming together, and it's
Yeah,
just gonna be it just seems like a giant, wonderful celebration. I was like so keen and eager to get involved in it as soon as I seen, and I was like, and you seen, well, I contacted you straight away. I want to be part of this. I want a show, and they were like, and then of
yes.
course you were saying, we'd love to have you in. Let's do something. What will we do? So I'm really appreciative of that.
For me, it's like I was saying, it's all about the collaborations. We need to all pull together and support
Hmm.
each other. And this idea that there's not enough and bringing other people down in order to get your customers, because it's just so interesting to observe why people come to Heal Scotland. Some come with an agenda, but most don't. They come, they're just like, come on, let's rabble rouse the troops and
Yeah,
change our health trajectory
yeah,
because we can.
yes,
So
yeah.
you're going to be kicking off the main stage on Friday after the opening ceremony. So can you tell us what can people expect? So that'll be at 2:30 on the Friday at the Marina.
Yes. So, um, I think probably what's going to happen is that it's going to be a combination of like true prana and transformational breath. So imagine this. So I'm going to have people doing some free movement, jumping up in the air. Maybe if you can't jump completely due to mobility issues, maybe they're just lifting their heels off the ground and back down again.
Mhm.
And then the arms come into it, and we expand that movement so that the arms end up going all the way down through the body, down into the earth, and then up again. And we'll be doing this with conscious breath awareness. Do that for a period of time till we feel the prana into our system. And then when you know yourself, and some people may not know, however, that when you do that type of breath work, you begin to feel it in your system, your fascia to begin with. But then your heart rate starts to increase and your lungs begin to expand. And then you begin to get the natural drug through your system because the blood's oxygenated to such an extent. So we're going to do that also with the spinning processes of it. We'll just start to spin round and a few other ways where we just move the body freely to really flood the body with pranayama to get right into the nooks and crannies of the system. So then it'll be stillness for a period of time to experience what it is to have prana in your system and just to be still. So you feel the giddiness behind your eyes, prefrontal cortex. You feel it in the end of your fingertips and your tippy toes, and then your breath will be going a bit more energized, and you just be there experiencing that. That's prana. At the same time, a little bit of explanation about what's happening to the body while they're experiencing that. I think after that, they're going to move into some somatic movement. And somatic movement isn't what I said earlier on is like the traditional yoga. It's going to be ways that, for instance, I've been doing quite a lot of work with getting people to stand up and sit down without using their hands, getting people to be on the buttocks and be able to twist round and go onto their chest and push up, like not like a push up, but you just push up and spin round, and then you're up on your knees and up on your feet. When I first started it with my group, they were saying, Braxton, I'm never going to be able to do this. And a
Yeah.
month later, now I've got 40 people this morning all doing these movements with me. And they're saying, I can't believe I can do this. So it's the explanation to them that by doing these types of movements, you hear so often that when people go into hospital, they don't get back out of hospital for one reason or another. Certainly if you're of a certain age and older, and it's a lot to do with the balance and obviously the spirit in essence. So this is a way for you to bring the spirit back in, and also a way for you just to be able to stand up and sit down like they would do with their grandchildren or their children. And then they realize they can do it, and then they realize the magic of spirituality, which is the power and the magic that you get from being able to realize I can learn new tricks even as an old dog, right? And the young people get to realize I can let go of my inhibitions and do something that looks and feels a bit crazy without being embarrassed about it. So it's about exploring the body and the breath playfully, like a child. And whether you're young or old, you get an opportunity to do this thing, which brings you into a space where we begin to share energy because we're all in the same kind of mindset. It's like I remember there was a doctor, I think it was Hamilton, spoke about neuroplasticity
Mhm.
when we were down in the true fields. And I find that when you do this kind of movement, it does change your mind thought. It changes how you think. And we speak about gratitude and about judgment and about letting go of gossip and about being kind to yourself and self-love and all of those things that we do without being wishy-washy. And it's not all about candy floss and rainbows, right? It's about some of the darker stuff and combining it with the lighter stuff and finding a balance in between through breath and movement. So it's going to be along those lines, Lilia.
Yeah,
And then
I know. I mean, I think most of us kind of work very intuitively, don't we? Now we
yeah,
freestyle, we've all cross trained because we've all done a million courses, and then we take what we like and we make our own. So that's what I love,
yeah,
because but it also becomes difficult when people say, "What do you do?" and you're just like, "Well, how would I even explain this?"
yeah. That's probably what you were thinking just now because it is hard to it's hard to envisage unless you're doing it, and when you're doing it, you feel it. Then you begin to
Exactly. So moving the body is so important for letting go as well. And again, I actually just did a couple of videos in proprioception this morning because I've been walking my grand dog. I go off piste, so you're walking in stones in the beach, you're walking on slippy rocks, etc. And I mean, I only really understand now how important it is to keep doing that.
yeah,
Because if you
yeah,
don't, then suddenly you can't, and you're much more likely to be a fall risk. And it's just these micro movements in the ankles, that keep telling the brain, yeah, we can still do this. Yeah, we can go
yeah,
backwards, we can go sideways, we can spin round. Things that are so actually basic and simple. But,
yeah,
women in particular, they get to a certain age, they walk forwards, they sit down, they get up, they walk forwards, they sit. They never do any other movement. And then obviously what happens, you get to a certain age and your proprioception's completely gone, you go off
yeah,
balance,
yeah.
there's no warning signal, boom, you're down and your hip
Yes,
is broken. And that is,
exactly that.
so that's why these things are so important.
Yeah.
Now, but do you also tell us what else you do. Are you
So
doing coaching?
am I doing what? Did you say what?
Coaching.
Yeah, I do a number of bits of coaching. Um, so I'm doing this thing, the Dharma meditation. Generally, if I'm doing a larger workshop or a retreat, I would either bring people in if they're just there to do the retreat, or some people would come to me. I bring yoga instructors toward me, and then they'll say, "I want to learn what you're doing," and I say, "Well, the thing is, I can certainly teach you, but it's not traditional yoga that you're going to learn from me. You're going to learn something else." And they're like, "No, I've been in your classes for the last 2 years. I want to do what you're doing. I like what you're doing, and then I like the idea of being able to change it. When I've learned enough for me to emerge it, to let it to become organic into something else." So it's the process of I started this thing called Dharma meditation, and it's once you've done all the movements, once you've done a lot of breath work, then you start to change the kind of fluctuations of energy within the body, the frequency changes, the vibrations begin to change. Then it's about steadying the ship to some extent and taking you into a more of a meditative space. The Dharma meditation is guided. That involves the difference between the physical body, somatic, and then when you go internal. And it's the gateway to get to that space because a lot of people are not sure how does it work? How do you do it? Am I doing this correct? A whole number of questions in people's minds about I'm doing this rubbish, I can't do this. So the idea is to explain to people you're not supposed to lose your thoughts when you meditate. That's not the point. You're never going to clear your mind of your thoughts of every day because we live in an environment and a culture where we have to do things. If you were living on the mountain for 10 years, only meditating, yes,
Yeah.
that's not what we're doing.
No.
We're trying to deal with challenges and tasks in life. So, therefore, you need to teach yourself to manage your thoughts. Your thoughts are there, they're never going away. And then, once you manage them, then you begin to observe the thoughts. And then with the thoughts come emotions and feelings and so on and so forth. And then when you get past that point of leaving you physically, literally, you leave, and spiritually especially, you leave the physical body behind. And then you go internal. And that's when you reach your meditation space. The initial gate, that's the gateway into meditation. Then when you go into your meditation process, it's explaining to people, this is what you're going to experience when you stop, when you leave the physical body. and it's different for everybody because it's individual, of course. But generally, it's shadows and it's shapes and it's colours and it's a little bit of fear and it's confusion and curiosity, a whole host of different things. And it's up to you then to manage that. So you watch it, and all your obligation is at that point is, and I explain this to them, is all you need to do is observe and nothing else. I think when people get that, when people understand that all they're doing is observing, there's nothing else for them to do, then they're like, oh, it's the moment. So I'm not trying to do anything. No. I'm not trying to seek. I'm seeking something. No, you're not seeking anything. All you're doing is observing what's happening. Observing your mind, observing the emotions, you're observing the thoughts, you're observing anything that comes in, it comes. And when you do that with no judgment to yourself, all the thoughts, when you stop judging the thoughts, this wonderful thing begins to happen. And that is the thoughts and emotions and the feelings begin to just do this. Oh, and they'll begin to settle. They're still there bubbling, but
fantastic.
You're just there in it. And that's the Dharma meditation processes. And that can go the different ways, depending on what it is that you're guiding or what you're offering in any given meditation, you know. So
yeah, that's fantastic. Well, brilliant. Listen, thank you so much, and I'm really excited to see you in person.
Me too.
You're kicking off our festival at 2:30 on the Friday, so and you're going to be around all weekend, so people can chat to you about this. And find out, you know, where in Edinburgh do you teach?
So I teach public. So I teach at Fetis, and I teach at Westwoods, which is also close to Fetis. And then a lot of my work now is one-to-one consultations, simply because people wanted to do, like one-on-one time with me a lot more. Yeah. And so I started to do it a little bit, and it kind of took over. So now I'm working so as well as that, I'm working doing stuff with I don't know if you know Lauriston Castle in Edinburgh. Do you know that, just outside Edinburgh? So I'm about to do a run of a series of events with them, wellness events, where I'm going to bring different people in and we're going to take over the gardens. That starts in May. I'm just going to do 3 this year, and then next year, depending on how it goes this year, I'll expand it. And then various places. Borders Book Festival. I'm still in Crete once a year. You know, various places. Yeah.
Well, people can come and meet you. And what's your website? I think I put it actually in the.
It's just yoga. It's just Yoga Ganesh. Just need to put yogaganesh.co.uk. No, you're right. Actually, it is .com. It's .com. I think. Yeah. I don't even know my own website.
Anyway, I'm sure they're smart enough to work it out. Yeah, awesome. Okay, hun, I'll let you go. Thank you so much.
Lovely to speak to you. I am going to start putting the word out to lots of people. You are a wonderful person. You should know that. What you're doing is remarkable. You are definitely relentless, and good on you. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going.
Exactly. Let's do this.
Take care, Lilia.
You too, darling. Huge love. Bye.